All right, let's kick this off. So, Natural Born Killers. I don't even remember why we picked this movie. I think it was
I don't know either.
Like what was old and what we wanted to rewatch again. I think maybe that's something I had brought up, but I hadn't watched this movie since I think I rented it maybe like right after I graduated, so probably a year after the movie had come out. So maybe it was like when it first came out, like on VHS.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But first thing I want to get is just kind of a quick recap or review or impressions from those who is the first time watching it. So we want to start with Jamie. Just kind of quick, like first impressions. We'll go around the table and
sure thing. My first impression, I mean, I always love Matt Damon. He's a pretty good actor, and when he, he gets the job at ConAgra, and the price are. You guys watch Natural Corn Billers, right? But Steven Soderbergh. Oh no, Natural Born Killers. Oh, there it is. I honestly, I don't know what to say. I'm not foreign to art films, I guess, but this one still caught me by surprise. The IMDb description doesn't really prepare you what you're in store for.
Right.
I think talking to you, Chad, helped. You said there's animated sequences, so I knew it wasn't going to be, standard fare, but I guess I'm still processing. It was certainly interesting, and one of my notes here is snakes mating. That was one of the things I thought of because
right after the wedding scene, right? The ceremony.
Or just like actual snakes in the wild, because it's colorful and weird, and you don't know what's going on, and like you're kind of glad you saw it, but you never want to see it again, kind of thing.
It's like the intro to right? adaptation. Like you're like the first time you see that, like, what did I just see?
Yeah.
Like I'll never be able to not see that.
Yeah, so I'm still processing, but I'd love to hear what Chris thought for his first impression.
Yeah, so I watched it for the first time on Friday, so just a couple days ago. One of the things that, like, just to throw it out there, the poster itself is so iconic. Like, just seeing bald Woody Harrelson was always like, I don't know, in like those like round frame red glasses that he rocks. Like, I've always been really intrigued to see the movie, and I think that's a reason why I think we probably all agreed, like, oh yeah, like either it had something meaningful for you when it first came out, or for me, I feel like that poster in and of itself is just so iconic. But it was a really interesting viewing experience. I hated the first 45 minutes. Like, it was just so weird. Like, the car scenes were like really like unique, where you could just tell they were like transposed. And I feel like the weird like sitcom thing with like Rodney Dangerfield and like all of that like leading it. And I also feel like there was like very little like narrative and dialogue for like
your favorite,
which is like something that I really need from a movie.
So I need somebody that talks to me.
I need some build up here. But I thought, so I just thought like some of those things were really, really strange in the way that like, they mirrored some of that like animation stuff, which I really like. I don't know if any of you have seen Dangerous Lives of the Altar Boys, but they do a really cool job where they mirror what's going on in like currently in like the kids' lives with like what's going on in like this like graphic novel poster that they're kind of creating, and it's a really cool like play in my eyes, but like it just none of it was making sense to me. Where I first really started enjoying the movie is when they finally got to the prison, and like when they caught them in some of the conversations between the warden and bringing in the news reporter with Robert Downey Jr.
Gale.
Yeah, Wayne, which his accent, oh my gosh.
Yeah, why is he Australian? Do we know?
Yes, no. But it was a really unique experience, and like this would not be a rewatchable for me. It's not one that I would be like, oh man, I'm gonna go back and watch again and again. Like, it's a kind of a one and done.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you guys remember from your first experiences watching this movie?
Probably the first time I watched this, I don't know, I was probably stoned.
Yeah,
jealous.
I think actually like we had taken acid, or what we thought was acid.
Yeah, I think somebody had. I knew people that did that too at that that point, but it's
Which I don't think I probably watched like the first 15 minutes of the movie.
so to not dumb it down to that, but
Yeah.
I think it's the movie was just a total onslaught. So you're just like you really there's not much of a story in the first 45 minutes. I think that is the most non-linear part of the whole movie. But once they get to prison, then it's like linear.
Yep.
They're talking more. Because there's so much that, I saw that would happen in the, beginning of this movie, that there's so much imagery, and imagery is being used to show like their feelings and thoughts at the same time, at different ways. He's using this visual tapestry to actually do that, and that's what that's what I saw in the beginning back in the 90s. But the driving force of a lot of this was the music, and it was a lot of the music that I was into at that time, and some of it I still like to this day, like 9 Inch Nails and Rage Against the Machine. Those were 9 Inch Nails was prevalent. It introduced me to a lot of other musicians like Leonard Cohen.
Yeah, this movie introduced me to
And
Leonard
even
Cohen
like
too,
L7, I didn't know much about L7, but the song Shit List,
Yeah.
which they used, I noticed twice.
Yeah.
But
Like
I didn't
in
know who they were, at that time. So it was kind of opened me up to a lot of different music. And I think I appreciated it more for that, because the story seemed to be pretty simple to me. It's just that, they loved each other and they just, went on this killing spree after killing her dad and mom, But that's kind of how I thought of it back in the 90s.
And I'm curious too, as a often in my younger years viewer of certain films under certain substances, did it enhance? I mean, seriously, did it enhance your viewing experience? Did it meet you on your level?
I don't think it did. There's many times where I've heard people, even using the movie Pink Floyd, The Wall. Oh, you gotta see it on acid, or you gotta see it high, or something. I found that these movies, it didn't matter. It's just, it is what it is, Maybe I didn't think it enhanced it any to me, but
Okay. Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I never felt that way either.
Okay.
Actually, I feel like I got more out of the film sober.
I think
versus
so
high.
too.
Plus, if I'm like
especially
high or like I'm
now.
like watching a movie under influence, I feel like I'm so like distracted by like what I'm thinking. Like I can't really focus on the movie anyway. But so that's all I remember is like the first few times I seen it. I think I was probably just baked, But the soundtrack is the thing that kind of stuck out to me too, like throughout the years. But just my curiosity of going back to this movie, I think it is like a fucking art film, at least like the first half of it is, just like the imagery that's portrayed. But I did like the sitcom scenes and like the thing I was reading about the Dangerfield skits, like he like ad-libbed like those lines, the lines were that
so terrible.
Yeah, they were like so strange.
It's so bad. Like she's not going to see my face for an hour. I'm like, yikes.
What were you guys all taking from the black and white sequences? Like when it would like slowly like cut black and white, be black and white for 15, 20 seconds, cut back to color. Like
What was everything? There was like cutting. It's like there's all these different filters that comes. It's always like red,
Yeah.
the whites, the black and whites.
Yeah.
It always seems like too like a lot of the times that when it was on like Mickey,
Yeah.
it'd always be like red. Then Mallory was like always had like the light shining on her.
Mhm.
It's almost like she was kind of like still like this innocent character because she's taking like she's like this, I'm guessing like underage character, and you got Mickey's like this older guy kind of taking her, and like then they go on this killing spree. But that's kind of how I was like reading into it. But that's something I didn't really focus on until I was like watching it like the second time.
Well, they're flashbacks, aren't they? If I remember right, the black and white.
Were they?
The only ones I can think of are when he's a little boy.
Yeah, when you say that, yeah, because like with his mom,
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
It's like when she's remembering too, like parts of it, like with her dad. When
Yeah.
she's like driving, leaves like the hotel room and drives out and like gets the auto shop boy on the car.
One thing that, with the black and white scenes, the diner scene always, with the black and white in that scene, it doesn't play like a flashback. I don't know. I
You're
could
right.
not wrap
Yeah,
my
you're
head.
right.
I could not wrap my head around how he was using that in that instance.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's more of like a point of view, you know, where the 35 millimeter, you know, just straight up camera work was like what actually is going on. But I wonder if that black and white wasn't being used as a point of view from one of them.
Yeah, I can see
But
that.
I couldn't figure it out. If there must have been
Yeah.
some key that he was using, you know,
Yeah.
to like differentiate, but I don't know what that was.
Yeah,
at
because I was
this
feeling,
point.
but
But yeah, you're right about the.
Yeah, there was some of the flashback
Yep,
stuff, but I
exactly.
feel like there was more to it where like I wasn't being able to connect all the dots of like why, like it wasn't only flashbacks. Like there was more, and yeah, I found that really really interesting. And I think going back to like the stuff that you were talking about with the music, like I was also really like surprised at like how music was used, and like just again like a very like unique like alternative playlist. Like I think of, you know, modern day, like everybody talks about like Baby Driver and how Baby Driver was like this amazing like soundtrack, or even Guardians of the Galaxy having an amazing soundtrack. Like I feel like for the music that you were into and the music that I'm into, like that was really fun to hear a very like alternative and very unique soundtrack to a movie.
Well, and jumping off of that, that was the first point too. Like you said, Chris, the first 45 minutes, I'm not with these people. I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I do not want to see them keep going. But then at the end, when he pulls out the shotgun in the final scene, the escape, and I think is it Bomb Track that they're playing? I can't remember which Rage song it is, but I think it might have been Bomb Track.
Yeah.
That was the first point where I was like, all right, Woody, let's go.
And did they have Killing in the Name of at the very beginning too? I thought they had two. I think they had
there was
two
Rage
songs,
songs,
and I thought the first one was Killing in the Name of at the very beginning.
So like after the Leonard Cohen, like because it doesn't open with Leonard Cohen. So it's like the desert scene.
Yeah, no, it's
Oh, the
after. I'm
credits,
sorry, it's
yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
I want to say it's like right before, right after like the sitcom vignette.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember that off the top of my head.
Yeah. I did appreciate. I thought it was really funny just having Woody Harrelson's character come in with just like a huge thing of like meat that's just like dropping on the floor, and like I did really enjoy that. I thought that was kind of funny.
Do you like meat? What's
He
he
does-
asking?
You know, then they steal the dad's car. Where's his car? How did he
get there?
that?
He
Yeah.
walked.
So this butcher shop's right around
He's
the
from
corner.
Minneapolis. He rode his bike.
50 pounds of meat. Yeah. But so since I pretty much grew up in the 70s and 80s, you know, the sitcom part that actually meant something to me, the way that they parodied that. And that was, I felt like it was a sort of like a Happy Days or Laverne and Shirley, you know, that
Yeah,
era.
definitely.
For
Caught
sure. And, you know,
Yeah,
that
and they're
was,
trying to like turn it on its head, right? Like trying to perverse it by saying, hey, like we're gonna do it in this way that is like, I think generally those kind of shows had like really positive like connotations and positive messages, and like they're supposed to be a little bit campy and those kind of things you think about, and they perverse it in the idea of like they're making, you know, Rodney Dangerfield's character really gross and like a sexual predator and like a pedophile and like sexualizing his daughter and stuff like that. So there, I recognize why, like the purpose of it, and I think that it did what it was meant to do, but it was still strange for me. Like it gave me a feel of trying to think, the Johnny Depp movie, not Rum Diaries.
Gilbert Grape.
No. Not that one.
Pirates of the
Hunter-
Caribbean.
No, Hunter S. Thompson was.
Oh,
Fear and Loathing.
Yeah, like it gave me
Las
like a Fear and
Vegas.
Loathing, like
The acid scene.
Yeah, the acid scene was like
sweet,
the like with the alligator or
Yeah.
whatever. Like that's what like the first like hour of this movie felt, was just like it was all over the board. It was just like
Yeah. I was kind of getting the feeling though. I had the idea of like we're kind of flipping through like channels on a TV though, because like you get that a lot, the imagery of like the television all the time, and like the flipping, and like once in a while you get like the snow screen and like the quick flashing images.
Yeah.
And as like they're in like the hotel room too, like as they're watching, like he's watching like television on the bed. It's like, I don't know, it's like Night of the Living Dead or something that's playing on TV, and like in the background
in the window.
It's like the scenery with like the wolf, and it kind of is like, then it gets kind of brought back later in the movie when he talks about like, you know, like I'm just like I'm a predator, you know, I'm a natural born killer, and like, and whatever, like that was all like that imagery was kind of tying into like
That's the best scene in the movie for me.
the hotel room scene with
I thought you were talking about
at the end with the interview with
I thought you were talking about the interview.
Yeah,
because like I thought like that scene, like the way that like Woody Harrelson played it, like he just did amazing in that. Like you could kind of see the slow build. You could see like he was really like methodical with his like ideas and thoughts. But it was really interesting. I feel like Robert Downey Jr. like, again, like talk about overacting for me, like how like he seemed like so even keel like the first two questions, then all of a sudden like it just flipped for him, and then he got like really aggressive, and there was no build up to that for me. There wasn't like, you didn't see him like toying with his emotions or like trying to like sort through it. It was just like all of a sudden now I'm angry at like what you're saying, and that was like really strange. But I thought the questions, like that entire scene, I thought was one of the best.
Like, cut the bullshit, you know, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then Wayne Gale like turns into like
he
wants to be
he's
like
all of a sudden a rabid dog, like out of nowhere, like
that kind of feeds his idea though, like through his show he's like always like, you know, sensationalizing these serial killers. You know, like it's kind of like he's like a wannabe, like he wants to get as close as he can to get to that moment, and like it kind of flips the switch when Woody's character does like I'm just a natural born killer.
You know.
I think we're all circling the voyeuristic aspects of it with the, you know, screens on screens, and we're looking in, and, you know, as the audience, I remember that commercial. Like, I'm thinking of the Coca-Cola polar bears, because I was
Coca-Cola was very displeased with how
we were going to know what that was from.
Yeah, I think I was 4 or 5 when this actually came out, and I didn't recognize a whole lot of the imagery, but that one was very very distinct.
I was reading that Coca-Cola thought that the polar bear scene was supposed to be in a scene where Tommy Lee Jones is watching the Super Bowl and the polar bear commercial comes on. But that went to a different
interview with Mickey,
right?
Apparently that whole interview scene was inspired by Geraldo Rivera interviewing Charles Manson in prison.
Yeah.
And basically Manson just played him like a fiddle. Geraldo was trying to be tough against him, but Manson was just steamrolled right over him.
I didn't know that.
Neither did I.
I didn't
I
either.
don't know, be something that did you try looking for that? Like, is there like
I found it in it was some random web page that I found it on. I probably could see
Could you find the video though? Like
yeah,
video
yeah,
on YouTube?
That would be
Did you watch
interesting.
that?
I don't know.
I could go back and watch that now.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading that they also like wanted to try to get Geraldo to play the Wayne Gale
really
character, but that wouldn't have been as good, I don't think.
Nah, I think
no.
You know, and I do you think he was parodying Geraldo Rivera? I don't know nowadays.
Yeah, they said
I
that
haven't
he
seen him in
studied.
so long.
Oliver
but
Stone told him to study Geraldo and some other guy that was on a Current Affair.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that show at all?
Current Affair.
But that's how like the American Maniacs logo thing was kind of parodying the Current Affair. But
there were several.
But the Current
that
Affair guy, I
style.
guess, was Australian, so I think that's where the Australian accent came into, but heavily influenced by Geraldo.
Yeah.
This suddenly makes Tropic Thunder a lot funnier for me too, because Downey's Australian in that movie.
What?
Yeah, he's playing the Australian actor.
Australian. I haven't seen that movie.
The only thing
it's not so good.
Yeah,
Plus he's in
pretty over the top.
Right?
It is.
Yeah, there's a huge backlash because of the Downey doing blackface. So I'm trying to kind of rationalize why they would have Wayne go so over the top with the emotion piece of that, and also having very little build up. And the only thing that I can think of is trying to make it more a stronger change when he ends up then kind of getting his hands dirty per se, as he's like starting to like he gets a gun, he starts like killing the cops and like I'm fucking alive. Yeah, like and so like I think they're maybe trying to like really like make him a really just individual or seemingly just in the interview to like show how far someone falls or even potentially how like just intransparent that was, or like just how he maybe isn't as just as he thought he would be when the time came to it. And I think they were maybe trying to make that fall look a little bit bigger. I don't know.
I would agree with that because what I kept thinking of too is there's that line between fascination and interest, and then how do you cross over? It's sometimes hard to tell. I was thinking about the new Ted Bundy tapes that is on Netflix now, and people seem to be grabbing a hold of him watching, and there's a fascination with him as the way some people are interested in the Marvel universe or whatever, and that always fascinates me.
But the thing that I find like so strange about that, like the fascination right now with the Bundy tapes, is like nobody's talking about the content. They're talking about like, oh wow, Ted Bundy was hot. Like that's the thing that like no one's talking about the content of the actual conversations, but more so like that he's just an attractive dude.
Oh, that's just it. There's like internet Ted Bundy fan fiction, and which blows me away because, like you just said, you don't understand this guy. Then you miss the entire thing.
You miss the entire point of what they're going for.
Yeah.
So is that like done? Is that like a docu-series? Or is it?
It's on Netflix.
Like documentary, or is it actually like?
No, it's actual documentary. I think I can't remember the name of the reporter, but he got hours of interview footage with Bundy over, and I haven't seen it, so I can't say specifically when.
I'm curious if it's done in like episodes or if it's like a regular documentary movie where it's like a full length, like 90 minutes, 200 minutes, something like that. 200 minutes is way too long.
Is this videotape or is it audio tape?
And again, I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know either. I think it's audio, but I think they have stock footage. Okay, I think, and probably some interviews.
Yeah, they probably do, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's also setting up that new Zac Efron movie where he's playing which again I think is playing with that line because we know Zac Efron as one of the most beautiful people in Hollywood, and
what is he playing?
Ted Bundy.
Yeah, he's like been cast as Ted Bundy in a movie.
So it'd be interesting to see like how he is like portrayed then in this movie, like versus like,
real life.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like he should.
Which it always seems to be changed now, like to, part of the script's going to be changed where it's going to be like Bohemian Rhapsody, there's going to be some changes made, like.
No. They're called liberties. Liberties taken.
That's
okay, they're not changes. They're liberties.
That's the word.
I'm Brian May, and I have some edits.
Oh man, what else I want to talk about?
Oh, pray tell, Chad. Pray tell.
So
go ahead.
I was gonna say in the diner scene, did anyone else catch that Owen was there?
Yeah, Owen was there, and Owen is
no way.
He's there. He fades away.
He fades away, which was very
and he's
strange.
also in. Yeah. I think not too long after that, there's another scene where it's like where it does like the quick flash, and there's like a guy going like making the crazy face, and it's like the red light again.
Yeah, it's like a demon.
That's him.
Basically, a demon.
What's his name again?
Owen.
Yeah,
like double
Owen
shotgun in the prison. Owen.
Yeah,
Owen. Yeah, he's in the diner, but he's just sitting there reading a paper, and all of a sudden he just vanishes.
Kind of fade, yeah.
So Stone in an interview calls him like Mickey Mallory's guardian angel / demon.
Yeah.
So, and he was in another scene in the prison too. He was a janitor, and Scagnetti and the warden just walked by him, and all of a sudden, Scagnetti. I read your book. What did he say? The whole thing, or something like that. Yeah, someone's just sitting there, and he just looks right at the camera too, and he's got his mop, and he's got the mop bucket there, and just looks right at the camera, and then that's the scene's done, and.
Dang it, Lee, you're making me want to rewatch it, and I don't want to rewatch this.
I had to do this twice.
Did anyone watch this by themselves, or like watch this with like their partner in the room? Or
no, I watched it by myself.
Yeah, I think you you're glad that you watched this by yourself. Well, Ashley would never watch this. But.
Yeah, Ashley would never watch a movie like this. But am I glad I watched it by myself? Yes and no. So like the yes part is that I feel like I don't want somebody else to like kind of throw shade on like what I'm thinking or like influence me. So like the idea to just be able to like sit there, watch it on my own, kind of formulate my own ideas and thoughts before coming here, and like without having anybody kind of expose me to their ideas prior, I think is really good. But there are so many times where I feel like watching this movie with like a group of people could be really fun, especially if you made a drinking game out of it.
Right.
Right. Like,
I think this would have been like a good movie though if we were able to like
all watch it at
this
once
together.
Yeah, because I think it would be really interesting to hear other people's takes in the moment. But I also think like it would be fun. Just I would be poking fun at this movie like half the time, and I just feel like there could be some really like good like one-liners.
Right. I think what could have probably made this movie better is if like the whole like first half of the movie probably could have been made like a 15-minute sequence and still like have gotten like everything that you wanted to portray to your audience. Like could have been done in like the same amount of time. It's like he had all this. He's like, I can't cut any of this.
Like, doesn't that make you think though? Like knowing like how like a movie's made and like the process, like they have so much footage. Like how is that what they were okay with? Or like knowing like how long it is, like what did they cut? They're like, nope, this doesn't make it.
Right.
That's the thing that I'm curious to know is what was cut.
Technically, they said they did 2,500 to 3,000 cuts just to get the original edit that they sent to the board, and then the board kept sending it back to them. You got to cut more out of here, you know. You got to, and they eventually had to cut like 150 scenes out of it.
What was this movie rated, by the way? Because I'm thinking like,
well, in the theater it was R.
Really?
The director's cut is unrated.
Just unrated, yeah.
I'm surprised. I feel like knowing when this movie came out and like. It seems like a really violent movie. I would have expected like an NC-17.
I think
just
that's
like
what
just from a violent standpoint.
For sure, it was that originally.
When did NC-17? When did that rating? Like that could have been around.
Was that early '90s? Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember now.
Were you saying like when did it come out? Because it didn't come out with the original ones. It came out after like in the '90s.
What's that?
The NC-17 rating.
It probably came out.
Is it like a newer? It's like a newer rating per se. Okay.
Yeah, very few films get it. You know, especially one like this where they wanted it to be in every theater.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of theaters probably wouldn't have picked it up if it was MCE-17. Yeah. That's just my guess.
Kind of like the death nail. Like
it could be
it'll just keep it at like some indie movie like.
Yeah,
Sundance kind of thing or something.
I'm incredibly surprised that movie wasn't NC-17. Like I just thought like it was incredibly violent for an R movie, and like albeit there's like no nudity or anything like that, but just the violence alone.
So
anything there, Internet Wizard?
From Wikipedia, X was replaced by NC-17. Films such as Midnight Cowboy, 1969, Clockwork Orange, 1971. However. Pornographic films often self-applied the non-trademark X rating, so there was a bit of confusion there, whether this was just material that was far too strong for, young teenage audiences, or if it was actual porn. And it also lists Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, which is another uncomfortable film. The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover are all the ones that are mentioned here. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Does it say like when it was introduced? What year?
That I'm having a hard time nailing down.
Speaking of uncomfortable movies, has anybody seen Larry Clark's Bully?
Mm-mm.
Yes.
That is like one of the most uncomfortable. Yeah, like that is one of the most uncomfortable movies I've seen. It's just
that I feel like that movie is like random parts of rural America across all of our nation.
Yeah, I feel like that was his shtick too. Like he did like Kids. He did.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he did Ken Park. I'm trying.
I think Bully though is really because it's like the Trailer Park Ohio Kids, right?
Yeah.
Like the meth.
Yep.
Yeah, movie is I think that's probably the most disturbing movie I've ever seen.
What's it called? One more
Bully.
time. Bully.
Bully.
No. Is it Bully? Oh, I'm thinking of another fucked up movie. Bully's the one about the Florida kids, right? They all like murder their friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie's fucked up though too.
Yeah.
Scary fucked
They
up.
like. Yeah. I mean,
God.
spoiler.
I can't. Spoiler. Right? Spoiler alert. But that's the whole entire basis of the movie.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you're waiting like, oh my God, I can't believe they killed their friend.
Basically, a pack of naive teenagers conspire to murder a mutual friend's whose aggressive demeanor has proved too much. 2001.
Now I can't remember the name of the movie that I was thinking about.
Is it Gummo?
Gummo. Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, that movie's fucked up too.
Yeah, that movie is.
Quickly adds both to Netflix queue.
Would that be on Netflix?
It was for a long
Was it?
time. Yeah.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
for a long time. It still might be.
It's so gross. There's this one scene where it's like a brother. There's like some weird incest stuff I
Yes.
thought in this movie too, where he's like listening like through the bathroom door and like pinching his nipple and shaking and pinches his nipple, and I think like masturbating. So fucked up.
Yeah.
You don't actually see it, you know. You just
Oh,
kinda, you
sure.
kind of get what he's doing, but
Yeah.
you definitely see the nipple pinching part.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it? Gummo?
I don't know. Must be. I didn't do any internet
A
research.
take from
afterwards.
Gumby. Sorry, I got a tough topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
Digress.
What else do folks want to chat about?
I actually wanted to hit on Tom Sizemore, Scagnetti.
What a fucking creep.
Right? He's
Wait,
pretty
before
gross.
we get out of it, though, is there like, I didn't get any feeling of like anybody I was rooting for through this entire movie at all.
Well, it's funny you
Right?
bring that up because the only time I felt that, and I didn't feel it for Sizemore, but what happened was he tells the story about his mom getting shot, and I took that to be the University of Texas Austin shooting,
You know,
and it made me think of, has anyone seen Tower, that
No.
documentary?
I
Like the one where
haven't.
It's done like the animation. Like,
Yeah.
done like kind of mixed in. No, I
Mhm.
haven't. I heard
It's
that's really
incredible. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen, bar none. Definitely one of top 5 documentaries, no question. But that was, it made me, and I didn't want to mix my feelings for his character with that movie. But that was the one, because I couldn't figure out. They referenced Manson and Bundy, and so I'm trying to anchor myself with these real world killers or anything that's really going on. But that was the one that pulled me out and was like, oh, I can actually like feel bad for this guy. He immediately changed my mind, but
Nice. That's all. That was the Skignetti bit.
yeah,
It's interesting during that scene while he's explaining that prisoners are coming up to the warden wanting to air grievances, and the warden's just basically pushing them out.
oh, that's right.
And they're, you can see their lips moving, but you can't hear them.
Mm-hmm.
There's like nothing coming out of their mouths, and
Yeah.
and then the warden has got, there's some other things that go on where there's some visual images of, you see that he's like listening but not really. It's very bizarre. But yeah, he's very graphic with what was going on and why he's a cop basically in that scene. And it was it Charles Whitman? Was he the shooter?
Yeah.
I think he was, because
Yeah.
they actually, when they were showing like Ted Bundy and some of these other serial killers, it must have been
The
in one of the
American
American Maniacs.
Yep, he's
He
like
was
the
one of
second
them.
one, yep.
Yeah, he was one of them. And that was a real guy. So
Right. That's interesting about him swatting away the inmates, though. I mean, obviously, it comes to a head at the very end. He, can't focus on the big picture,
no.
but I didn't remember that.
Yeah, interesting. That's the warden is. The warden knows he's basically on borrowed time, as they even say that it's at 200% capacity, and I mean it's just basically a powder keg.
Powder
waiting
keg,
to
yeah.
go.
It's
Yeah,
ready to
that's what he
go.
says too.
Then,
Oh, yeah,
then in the interview, Mickey does his natural born killers
yeah.
speech, right? Then it just blows up, and it was like I think it's like lard.
The lard,
playing
yeah,
in the background.
lard's
It's just
in
like
the background.
cafeteria just explodes in violence. But
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they did a really good job of not like making any character likable. Like every single character is
Everyone's
just
a fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
They're just there's
All
no
of
like
them.
redeeming
yeah, like
qualities. Like
yeah, in any of the characters. Like I was like even trying to be like, oh, like what about Mallory's mom? Like she's not in it for very long, but like again, like she just ignored like all the shit that was going on with her dad, and like yeah, there's like not a single likable person in this.
What about Kevin,
Just Kevin.
her little brother?
Her
You're
little
finally
brother,
free,
yeah.
Kevin.
Oh,
well, is it her little brother? I think it's her son.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
yeah.
You mean Mallory's my mom?
So to Mallory's mom, what would be her relation to this? Like Kevin? Would that be like just be a stepson? Or it'd be like her daughter's son? So grandchild.
I also think that we should. I think we should talk a little bit more about the warden, because I think, as far as like memorable characters, I think he was super memorable. Like I was, you know, I think for like the first like 20 minutes that he was in the movie, or the first 20 minutes, I just loved his character. Like he was like killing it. I just thought he was really funny, like sort of aloof, all over the place. I also loved the mustache.
And the
was-
hair. That's got to be the most
hair's
hair he's
best.
ever had.
Yeah, like it kind of like
The swoop.
coiffed up.
Right? How much pomade did that take?
I agree with you, though, Chris. I was really happy to see him, and then really happy when I didn't see him anymore.
Yeah.
Well, which version did you watch? Did you watch the director's
Theatrical.
The theatrical?
Yeah.
You watched the director?
Yep.
So it's on the director's cut, I think, it was where like his head is on like a pike. Or
Yeah,
whatever the
they,
warden.
yeah,
They had to edit out for the
I'm
get.
sure in the original theatrical one too, it was you know, they corner him in the room, and then he climbs the gate, and then he's like trying to pepper spray everybody. But then you see a little bit later that a couple of them have knives, and obviously they're bloody. And then all of a sudden you see his head getting lifted up, and they're just cheering, and you know, and he's just bouncing around on top of this stake. It's like basically a mop handle, I suppose.
Yeah. Right.
You
Right.
know? So, yeah, they took care of him. But it's interesting where he used the little, what is it, like a surgical clip to subdue these men,
That's right.
and on the nose. You know, he had
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Right.
You know, he had
Forgot
this
about that.
tool.
Yeah, that's like the fight scene he uses that, where he like, someone comes at him, he like rolls him over, and then he like grabs him by the nose.
You know.
I think like he like ties it, or like, what does he do? He ties it around, or
It has the opposing
oh, got
teeth
it.
on it, so it can just lock in
Lock,
place.
yeah. Oof, that would
You
hurt.
know? And then he's basically ready to blow a gasket too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing this guy hasn't had a heart attack or a brain aneurysm. How freaking angry he gets in this movie. I've never seen anybody get that angry in a movie. At one point, he was in, it must have been the guard tower, and they're explaining to him that your prison is it's being run by the convicts now, and he's just screaming so hard that he's
Yeah.
just spitting.
Yeah.
It's the complete antithesis of his fugitive role. It's where he's Mr. Cool, collected. We're going to
Well.
catch Mr. Kimball. Then, wah!
it is an exact opposite. Yo.
All right. Does anybody who else has any notes you want to touch on we haven't talked about yet?
No, I mean, I was just, the last thing I was going to just throw out there is like how people felt about the ending. Like killing Wayne, was that the right move? Like it goes against what their entire idea was of like always having one person who can tell the story, and I recognize that there's a camera there, but still.
It was live.
Well, so you liked it.
No, I don't. There's not a lot I like about like this movie. To be honest, like it's just
Yeah. It's a tough watch.
yeah. It's I think in the time, like in the moment,
Yeah.
there wasn't really anything like that, and there's parts of it I think that seems like tame and does seem simple now to like a lot of the content that's out there today is just I just think it's hard like reflecting back on this movie, but so I didn't really care for it, but I think because then after that they go and it's like the scene of them like in like the RV and they have like a family and it's just like that seemed weird too, like that didn't really. But at the same time, this entire movie is just kind of all like over the top, and it's not.
Yeah.
These characters, nothing happens what you expect to happen in this entire movie at all, except maybe like everybody, like the prison warden, like everybody that runs a prison is dead.
Yeah.
Besides that, like,
and even like the good guys are like shitty people. Like you think of like
right.
Tom Sizemore's character of like choking out like the prostitute, like.
I even killed somebody.
Like even like the people that are supposed to be good are just terrible human beings, and they just
When in prison, like one of my favorite parts though is like, and I didn't know, I thought this was like an original artist that actually did the song, or it was like an old country song or something. But when Juliette Lewis is singing "I Was Born Bad" in the prison cell, I think that's probably one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
In the movie, again, it's like the whole thing. It's like there's like a red lighting in the room, but on her, it's like shining down like the white light. But I guess she wrote that song originally, and I was reading like it sounds like that's kind of was her thing. I don't know if she still does it now, but she loves to improvise a lot on her characters. I can't remember the movie that she worked on before that with Robert De Niro.
That was Cape Fear.
Cape Fear. I guess De Niro like hated the fact that she improvised a lot of her lines and said that it was like a disrespect to the director and the writer.
Don't you know who I am?
Right. Right.
Juliette Lewis. I was in Raging Bull.
Anybody else feel strongly one way or the other on the ending?
Oh, as far as the ending, I did watch the alternate version where they do die. Owen is in the van with them and ends up killing them.
Owen does.
See, now that ending would make
but
sense.
It wasn't
with his...
cut together very well. So
really?
It seemed kind of weird.
I wanted to go back and actually watch that like on YouTube or something, just the ending. But that ending, I think, makes more sense with his little like cameos or like, you know, like his little like where he's like in the diner. Then there's like that one quick scene. Like I think that would kind of tie the movie. Up a lot better,
it seemed it just was a rough cut, so it didn't seem it seemed out of place. But as far as the idea of them dying, it's almost it's like True Romance where the two of them get away also. Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette, they get away at the end there. And Quentin Tarantino did that story too. He actually did
but True Romance is just a better movie.
I do agree with you there.
Oh, it's so
like
either.
Okay,
like, it's so much better.
It is.
That should be the next. That can be the next one.
True Romance is definitely better.
Yeah.
But it's the same. It's almost the same thing where they get away, at the end. But no, with the two characters in True Romance, just to digress, they definitely are more likable, and they're not as just nasty and mean, I guess, for lack of better words. But
yeah, that's what kind of made it hard for me to rewatch this movie, was that nobody is likable. I feel like I just like watched it and I kind of like got bored with it and like had to watch it in chunks, I think, for that reason.
It is funny when, just to come back to when you asked how we felt when we first saw it in the 90s, I guess I did not look into it as much as I did in this last couple of viewings, because it is a hard movie to get through. And
when you say couple viewings, how many viewings?
I did two.
Okay,
I had to do two because the first one, it was I watch movies late in the evening, and a lot of times it's like, I turn these things into mini series. Basically, I think I used that term before. Right. It's just I had to just watch it one more time, before, because I didn't have very good notes from the first time, and I had some things that I wanted to. Did I actually see that, or I just there were a few, there's some questions, but it's I definitely will not have to watch this movie for a long time.
Yeah, I think my goal was to do multiple viewings. I was going to do it like the first time, first day on Friday, and then the second time again on Saturday, because I feel like I can pick things up on the second viewing that I maybe don't pick up the first time. But I just did not like this movie so much that it's like I'm good with the one time.
I'm really curious, like what the difference is between like Tarantino's version, and Oliver Stone's version was, because Tarantino like hated this movie when it was released. Yeah, because it was almost like a completely different movie.
Yeah,
I guess he was saying, and like he wanted to publish it like his version in a book, but I mean he sold all the rights. Except he got the credit on it, but what he like the version that he wrote was completely different from Oliver Stone's version. But when I first watched this though, like, did you get that Tarantino vibe like from the beginning? Like, especially like when the Natural Born Killers like title screen is like
absolutely
like the fake blood. I was like, holy shit! Like, the Tarantino like was there. Who like got that? That just seems like that's such a Tarantino like movie trait.
Absolutely.
Like, and I don't recall like any other Oliver Stone movie that is like that.
No, I was looking back at like what he did before this, and it was like, I mean, like Platoon and JFK and like
I love Platoon.
Platoon's amazing, but like I wouldn't say like all of these movies that he did, like none of them I feel like have like this feel. Like like this is a very like specific sensory like that he's going for, I feel like. In none of his other movies that I've seen, I haven't seen all of his, but like I feel like none of his other movies had that same like kind of crass, crusty, like very visceral type of experience.
Right. So definitely needs to be in the art film category.
Yeah, this like he has never returned to this either since then. You know, it's it was like a one-off for him.
How did this movie do in the theaters? Like, did it do well? Did it make
good
money?
I think it did. I don't know what the numbers were. I saw it 3 times in the theater.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
saw it in the theater.
So you've seen it 5 times total?
Probably more than that.
Oh wow!
Yeah. You know, but it's been
the critical reception was kind of all over the place too. Like,
all right,
I bet.
So here's what
15 years I hadn't seen it.
So budget for the movie was $34 million. Opening weekend, which was August 28th, 1994, it opened to $11 million. It grossed $50 million.
Oh, okay.
So
we have a currency inflation machine.
So it barely made its money back.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, like, I mean, I wouldn't call that a box office hit by any means. If you're, I mean, maybe it was one of those things where like it has got a cult following. I don't know. I think of like a couple movies like that where like True Romance was one where like nobody liked True Romance. It didn't do very well in the theater, and now it has a huge cult following.
Right. I wonder how this movie did compared to Pulp Fiction, which, again, I think it was like a couple months.
Yeah,
afterwards.
It was. Yeah.
You got the internet wizard?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
All right.
I think Pulp Fiction crushed it.
I think so too. Is they continue to re-release that every so often also. Yeah,
all right, so
yeah, it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
Pulp Fiction. So again, so $11 million to make Natural Born Killers. This Pulp Fiction had a budget of $8 million. The opening weekend, it grossed $9 million. And this one came out in 94, October. The other one was August 28th. Yeah, so October 14th. But here's the big difference. Total gross, $107 million.
That's got to be some vindication for the screenplay he can never publish.
Yeah.
What was MBK again?
NBK was 50 million.
Yeah, not even close.
Not even close.
No.
And I mean, a much smaller budget too. 8 million. I mean, not a much smaller, but 8 million versus the 11.
Yeah, I was just thumbing through the IMDb reviews too, because it seemed split, but lower. More people disliked it than they liked it. And someone said satire, which is interesting to me because I never got that feeling.
I never got that either.
No.
Satire?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I never got that.
I mean,
But yeah, I did run across that
yeah.
several times.
I mean, unless they were saying like some of the stuff. I mean, if they're talking about satire with like the idea of the maybe like the
Super
sitcom.
Bowl.
Well, I was thinking
Yes.
the sitcom thing could like a little campy, like
Yeah.
that could be a little satire. And again, I think like we've even talked about it already on this podcast, the idea of like it was trying to poke fun and like it had some social commentary. You talk about like the influence from what's his name, Geraldo
Rivera.
yeah, like kind of like poking fun at that and some of those things. So I mean, satire maybe, but I feel like it's a stretch.
I do too. Yeah, maybe I'm
Yeah.
thinking of it too close to comedy because satire's fun, more than usually. I guess not always.
Yes and no,
but
because I would probably call. I mean, I look at Death to Smoochie, like that's a black comedy,
Sure.
but I think that's got some satire in it.
Sure.
And I don't think it's like, yeah,
I've heard this one described as a black comedy too, but I didn't. I think I laughed once, and I laughed once, and it was at something that the warden had said.
for me, it was when he comes up with the list of convicts to the warden during the riot. That was the only time I laughed.
Yeah. What do I need those for?
Yeah.
There's like he's got milk being spilled on him.
I did want one thing I want to touch on too that I forgot to bring up was so it's the very end of the movie. It's after they kill Wayne Gale, then it cuts to like the real live like news clips. So I think one is like Rodney Dangerfield or not Rodney Dangerfield. Who was the
OJ. You're thinking of OJ.
oh yeah,
the guy that was beat then like the trial whatever.
Rodney King.
Rodney King.
Rodney
Yeah.
King. Yeah.
Rodney Dangerfield, Rodney
Yeah.
King, they're close,
Yeah.
right? Then where it's like the clip of him, then it's like the clip of Tanya Harding wiping
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what else? The
the-
OJ putting on the glove.
OJ.
Like now again, like
The
probably
Mendez brothers.
yes.
Yep.
And then that was them
Yeah.
like flipping channels too, right? Did
Right.
it go back to that like kind of
No.
like montage of like the
Yes, it was like
Okay.
the very end is right before I think the credits roll. Then
Well,
I
I
think it's like the scene with them in like
In
the,
the
RV,
RV,
or
yeah,
whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
But I know because
I
we were
really liked
we,
that,
we-
actually.
I remember. I mean, we probably remember a lot of that stuff as it like happened, and like
Yeah.
in the current like. Did that elicit like any feelings in you guys? Because I don't know if it like sometimes like those childhood memories like you kind of remember them or you don't, or like flashes or images of them. Like
yeah, no. So I actually really liked that little like end piece. I thought that was
I
really
thought that was
cool.
probably the most powerful part.
I
of the
agree,
movie.
and I think
Yeah.
like going back to that like interview scene, I think like one of like Mickey's entire premises is the idea that we all have this potential, like
the wolf.
yeah, right. Like we all have this
The hunter,
potential, and I
yeah.
think
Predator.
again you see the fall of Wayne and him like going from this like really just person to then all of a sudden like shooting and killing people and again talking about like I've never been more alive. Like I think that goes back to like, hey, like there are these people, like we all have it, and like the idea of everybody has a little bit of darkness and we hide it by this like mask that we wear. And I think that's where that was getting or driving at. And so I think they did that really well, especially with that last kind of, scene. But it reminded me a lot of Black Klansman. The end of Black Klansman
seen that,
blew me away, where
Really wanna see
it
that
was,
movie.
it's another kind of vignette of like real atrocities that are happening in the world and real issues like with race relations and things like that. And I want to say it's like 2 minutes or something, like it's
Yeah,
the
that sounds
last
right.
2 minutes, but it is just amazing and it is powerful, and you sit there at the end and you're just like, wow. And I think like that final scene in NBK elicited that a little bit for me of like, wow, like that was really cool pairing it and bringing it back.
Yeah, because I think all the events too in that clip happened that year. Even like the OJ stuff happened. Because I thought the glove thing was from the trial, but I thought the OJ
That was-
It was
Jessica Simpson-
NBA playoffs, so it was earlier in the year. OJ anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah, because it was like in June.
Yeah.
It was, I remember June it was happening. It was like right after. I remember
Yeah,
it was right
so-
after like
I
I got
bet
out
it
of
was like
school for this.
September that year.
that the trial started. Because I wonder if that came out like.
I wonder if
post-
that was 93. Was that 93? I don't remember now.
When OJ's trial started.
No, it had been the trial started. No, I think the trial started late '94 and went to '95 because I remember the verdict came out like right after I graduated from high school.
It started. Opening statements were on January 24th, 1995.
All right, so that stuff must have been thrown in, like on like the post theatrical release.
So I wonder if that wouldn't have been in the theaters
No,
at that point.
Yeah, because he wouldn't have been on trial, but we
I
would
didn't
have
even think
known
about it.
the Bronco would have happened.
Yeah.
That would have been.
but the
there.
Kerrigan stuff that happened
Yeah.
in '94. The Rodney King reference, I don't know if
I
that
thought that was older.
That
was
was older,
older,
yes.
yeah.
Yep.
the incident was when. I wonder when. Yeah, because I remember the riots happened when I was in like
Yeah.
7th or 8th grade.
That might have been
It
92.
was like 91 or 92.
91,
Yeah.
92-ish, yeah.
Is that when you were born?
The shit-
89.
89.
89, yeah.
Technically 80s.
Woo! 70s.